Hey, podcast listening people, welcome to another exciting, because I'm bringing it to you, episode of the B2B Mentors podcast. And of course, every single week, bringing you top B2B marketing experts, what I would say business celebrities, and absolutely my favorite people in the world, like Jason here, my guest who I have today, true practitioners, those who are in there doing it day in, day out. And now you have the opportunity for free to tap into their insights, right? And so for that, do us a tiny favor. Make sure you share the show. If not only for you, I guarantee you there's someone else in your network who is going to get great insights and I would say actionable takeaways, especially with what we're going to be talking about today. Little bit of background. My friend Jason, we've gotten to know each other over the last few months. Great dude, CEO of Specificity, an industry disrupting digital marketing firm, which has recently gone public. So congrats on that. Really exciting. Through his entire career, Jason's leveraged emerging technology to better define audiences that far outperform the targeting found in big tech and social media. His style is often referred to as no nonsense, or in other words, he's a no bullshit kind of guy, which Absolutely. Are my kinds of people. And as he calls it, likes he sees it and always has the data to back it up, which I think, we definitely have to talk about because a lot of marketers really struggle with that, is the data side of decision making. Even though we're in an abundance world of data, we still really suck at the data side. So Jason, welcome. Good to see you. Long time coming.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man, for having me. I appreciate it, Connor. It's good to see you, bud.
Give us a bit of the background. What was Jason doing at 15 years of age? What was Jason like? Were you entrepreneurial? Were your family entrepreneurial? Were you kind of intrapreneurial in the beginning and kind of evolved into the entrepreneurial world? Talk about that.
Yeah, I've been a hustler, just somebody willing to apply the elbow grease to whatever I'm doing. I was a collegiate diver in NCAA D1 school. I got into business real early on the sales side of things, went to work for a company with a great product, horrible marketing. So I took over on some of the marketing aspects. And then from there, it's just all over. Entrepreneur from there on out. I've had a few agencies. And with this one, the last, I'd say 7-8 years, Connor, you come to this realization in the digital marketing or even MarTech space that big tech's full of shit and they know it. I mean, they're manipulating data. They have everything. They just won't turn it on for the marketer because the ability to actually define your audience for conversions and for even those secondary and tertiary brand bands would soften their CPM model. It would be less profit for them, but a heck of a lot better gains for marketers, and they just simply won't do it. So a few years ago, I said to hell with them, built a workaround, and about a year into that, iOS 14.5 came to the market. So if you've heard the saying, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, that certainly holds true for us here at Specificity.
What were some of the earlier agencies that you're doing, and why was it you built those kinds of agencies at the time that you had built them? Like what were they, talk about the kind of agency that they actually were.
Yeah, so it's always surrounded sales and marketing, client acquisition. My first one was a company called Total Sales Solutions, and I was just a third party that would come in almost like what they call a fractional CMO today. I was doing it. I had a full-time job, and I was started with a couple of clients and that asked me, and then I turned it into a business. And I don't know, 6 months later, left the full-time gig and got into entrepreneurship. I just shut that down because I found a path I really wanted to go down. So I rebranded, started a new company called Defiant Sales Consulting. There we helped companies, and this is back in 2008-ish. 7, really leverage CRM technologies to better purpose that data, but really to help illuminate to CEOs. Back then we had this thing in sales, and everybody's been around the block during that time period remembers this. Everybody wanted an MBA coming out of Harvard to be their VP of sales. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs then. An academic understanding of closing a deal isn't the same thing as buying a drink and inking something on a napkin. These guys can't do it. These women can't do it. They don't have the same skill set as those of us that know how to come out here from the street level and knock on doors and get in and then close the deal. It's a different animal. So we leverage technology to illuminate that to transition the recruiting efforts. It softened their salary model, and was better for the sales rep because the commission structure was better. And then my partners, I brought in a 10% partner to handle the admin side, and they ended up buying it from me and moving it, and they never did anything with that. And then I started another digital agency, and that is what we have now. I transitioned away from that. We rebranded. You can't take an LLC public, so we had to incorporate anyway. We rebranded because Specificity is really the perfect name for our company, and that's how we arrived at 2023, man.
And I mean, you're a master deal maker. You know, no sales. You could probably step into any industry and just absolutely crush it. Why the agency world? I mean, as you know, I'm in that space too, and it's not for the faint of heart. Like, why the hell did you continue in the agency path? Why not go into another kind of business? Like, what's the drive for you in that arena?
You know, for me, man, anywhere I can call bullshit for a living, I love it. I do. I get my rocks off on going against industry grain. This monkey see, monkey do culture we have now is absolutely hilarious to me. And it's, it started in the 80s. I was a little kid, but 90s, and it's just gotten worse. And then social media came about, and everybody's like that. Marketers are the worst. They all take this, so Meta comes out with a model, they all climb onto it. And then Google comes out with this, and they all climb onto it. And then Google says, we don't want enhanced CPC anymore because you're doing too good a job of not wasting your ad spend. So we're going to get rid of enhanced CPC for all you marketers right ahead of holiday season. And I'm just tired of big tech controlling it. And they're just not as good. They're good at aggregating because they can build really big scaled tools, but they're not good at leveraging the data on behalf of who really benefits from it, which is consumers through a decrease in junk ads, and marketers through the increase in ROI on their ad spend by talking to people that care about what they're selling.
Is it just because it's easy to get away with? Like, marketers aren't doing the due diligence enough, CEOs aren't doing the due diligence enough. That's why big data can get away with it. Like, what do you think the actual reason is? I mean, they want to stay competitive. They want to, continue to grow their market share, and it's tough to do so when there's such an easy gap and they're doing a lot of bad practice.
Well, I have an interesting take on this, and a lot of people in our space tend to agree with me. I mean, if you look at how Meta, Facebook, then now Meta, and all the companies, Twitter, and on the like that have come on board, the ad tech world was really born there with programmatic and DSP and all of that stuff. Now we're getting into connected TV. It's all the same stuff. They've really done, I don't know if they've done it intentionally, Connor, or not, but what they've done is they've trained an entire generation of marketers to not really grasp marketing fundamentals, consumer psychology attributes, things that are actionable in marketing, and instead just get really good at leveraging platforms and softwares. The problem is we've all taken our eye off the ball and what the hell those platforms are delivering. You go into Meta today and identify just one select of homeowner. 20, 30, 40% of that is not homeowners. They're people that they weighted as homeowners because they follow Home Depot and they bought a lawnmower through a click-through funnel on Facebook, but they rented a new house and they wanted to mow the yard. It's all this specious stuff that goes in, and then iOS killed app tracking data. So now all the cross-app tracking and behavior and intent data is gone. And so now what you have is just marketers going in and getting as good as they possibly can in a really dirty sandbox. And that's the workaround we built. We're building audiences outside of these ad tech platforms completely. And then we're leveraging technology to convert them into addressable audiences that we publish to Meta. I'll still do a Facebook campaign, no problem. We do it all the time. Facebook's a part of a conversion model. However, we don't go into Facebook and say, hey, we want to identify, homeowners of this age with this income, because we know there's too much slop built into that, right? So we give them a list of device IDs and we say, serve the ads to these devices in this cadence and to this saturation level. That's it. We don't give them the flexibility to build like audiences, which are even more diluted than the primary audience you build. Whereas 4 years ago, like audience was a pretty good audience. We were doing it back in the day using their platform. It's just not the way to do it now.
But it's the app tracking that's made like audiences kind of diminish in return, or just like they're the platforms, and we've seen this with X too, like a lot of junk data, a lot of fake accounts when Elon Musk went in there to clean it up, probably every platform. So there's a lot of bad data that's on there. Is it just now it's coming to show there's bad data because of the app tracking, and that's why like audience retargeting isn't as, or I'm sorry, lookalike audiences is not as much the way to go as it used to be?
Well, it's actually literally the game of telephone that we all played in grade school, where you whisper into the kid in the front right corner's ear a story, and then you let them tell it over and over again. And by the back of the classroom, it's a different story. So you start with homeowners with a certain geography, with certain asset level or income, and then by the time you try to build a like audience, you may have a layered audience of 6 selects. And that lookalike audience may only have 3 in common, but it may not be any of the causality selects, the conversion causality selects that carried over. So now you're just in a generic homeowner audience. The problem is the homeowner audience before, because of iOS, but also there's been a confluence of things that have happened, right? So it's the FTC passed some laws a couple of years ago that took 2 of the largest data aggregators in the world out of the market completely. That happened in, I think,
and why did they do that? What made them decide to do that?
Well, there's a concern of the monopoly control of data. Some of these companies make billions of dollars doing economic forecasting for Fortune 1000 in the U.S. and companies all around and governments all around the world. And if they also are backdoor wholesaling the data they're aggregating for those purposes, is that a monopoly? Are they able to manipulate data to and from? And so they stepped in and just said you can do one or the other. And the 2 largest made a lot more money doing the leveraging the data side of their business model than they did selling it. And so they just dropped it, created a huge vacuum. And then you've got just a consumer amenability issue, right? You've got a fractioning of devices. We're all on multiple devices now, and smart TVs are now part of that. And you've got just real ignorance coming into the market at the agency level, advocating with a lot of marketing dollars, really bad strategies. And so everybody's jumping on that. And then
like what? Give an example of that.
Well, like right now, let's take the AI space, right? So right now you've got AI optimization tools. Okay, great. That's great. I love AI for ad tech. Love it. Great idea. However, if you set AI loose on a set of data that is diluted, so you're APIing data out of Google and out of Meta and out of all these ad tech platforms, and it's signal data and it's all of that, but you baked into that initial ad serve an errant audience of say 17 to 25%, I think it's much higher, but let's go real conservative. Then AI takes what you give it as factual data and then endeavors to leverage machine learning to arrive at faster conclusions. So it might be engagement, it might be conversion, but it's going to help you make really dumb decisions really, really fast. That's what AI is going to do. You'll hit some conversions, but you're going to miss segmented conversion opportunities. And oftentimes the convergence of 5 or 6 segments, top 3% conversion audiences, are exponentially better than the top 20%.
Pause on that real quick. Dive into that a little bit further, just for listener, segmented conversion opportunities. What do you mean by that exactly?
Sure. Well, every product has multiple segments that buy it, right? So, just to use some really general understanding here, there's certain products that are sold across generation. Smartphones are one of them. So, a 22-year-old's a buyer, a 35-year-old millennial's a buyer, a Gen Zer like me's a buyer, and a baby boomer is a buyer. You can't market to them in the same ways, through the same channels, on the same platforms. You can convert both baby boomers and Gen Zers on Facebook, but not at the same rates and not through the same devices. And if you're not parsing that in your audience build out, so if you're not setting up the campaign to analyze that, you totally miss the existence of those sub segments. So there could be life factors that happen that are correlated to conversion, and you miss those if you don't have that built into your audience build out. You don't have those selects in big tech. So when you're using signal data coming from big tech and big ad tech campaigns, that's what you're relegated to.
Is part of the issue though, you have the segments, but you're not catering the message towards that particular segment? Or is it more so what you're seeing, device usage is actually the big means? Like the message is maybe going to resonate across the board, but device delivery, smart TV versus cell phone versus,
right,
whatever.com, is that kind of the bigger missing piece people aren't recognizing?
Well, it's, Connor, depending on who you're talking to, it's all of it. I mean, right now, if you're doing campaigns in Meta, you're going after demographics, right? You're going after male, female, affluent, non-affluent. You're going after, all of those kind of baseline demographics that direct mailers have used for 50 years. And TV ad sales reps have claimed to have present on certain programming venues that they sell advertising to. Digital and data provides you such a deeper understanding. For example, when you're talking to the window industry, the biggest corollary to selling an $80,000 window job in the data isn't necessarily, it's first of all homeowners. So there's a subset that has to be present, home ownership and all that. But it's not affluency, it's not income, it's not net asset valuation on an 80. It's home equity. The biggest corollary in certain markets between somebody that will and won't convert on an $80,000 versus a $99 per window replacement type of model is home equity. Meta doesn't care about that. They don't even have any of that. So if you don't understand those types of things, but that is not the whole market. That is just a very strong segment. And if you don't saturate that segment to the point of attrition or diminished returns, you're missing out on that high conversion audience that converts at a faster rate. So then you do that, and now you have leftover budgets, and you go to second, third, fourth, fifth segment. You can't do that anymore on ad tech and big tech. You just can't do it. They don't have the data. They don't have eyes on data. They have signal data. And you rely on signal data. If you think somebody buys a Lamborghini in exactly the same way with exactly the same mindset and device they buy a toothbrush. Now, if you believe that, go to the data co-op and get all your data, because I'll tell you what, they got some great pixel correlated signal data for you. But it doesn't arrive at high conversion audiences.
Yeah, but I'm getting conversions, I'm getting sales, and I'm getting an ROI. So why even bother, having to do the extra effort and work to go to that deep of a level of data?
Well, the difference is taking $5,000 a budget, Connor, and getting $12 or $14 or $18,000 in return, and taking $5,000 a budget and getting 50 or 60 or 70. That's one. But even if those numbers are closer, it's the understanding and the learning that comes from the highly targeted audience that you can't get. Think about this. We all hear about optimization and testing, right? We all hear it. If you're testing creative, and if you're testing offers, or if you're testing, messaging and channels, but your audience isn't accurate, you might have a really engaged audience of chronic clickers that have anomaly reasons they're clicking, but they're not your conversion audience. So now you're mirroring all your creative and your brand messaging and your brand. So your marketing has to inform your brand, not the other way around. And the market has to do that. And if a certain percentage of people that you're relying on feedback from aren't even ever in the market to buy your product, look, if you let Lamborghini leverage SEO analytics to build their brand, they would be catering to 17-year-olds, because 80% of their traffic, and that's a generic, it's huge, it's a big number, is 16 to 25-year-old boys going to the online and searching for Lamborghini so they can get an image for the background of their phone, or Ferrari, or fill in the blank. Now, is that a high likely conversion? Well, maybe not then. Maybe in 20 years, that's the brand.
Today it is, right, because everyone's a millionaire on Instagram and super successful.
We're all YouTubers, man. Right.
I got to push back on you on that one, man. Everyone's successful and can buy a Lamborghini nowadays.
Yeah, well, when you're sourcing a 10 or a $20 million ad budget and looking at granular things like cost per acquisition and where to grow that spend and where to pull that spend back, I can assure you not everybody's a buyer.
Let's say specificity doesn't exist and you're not in this place, and the layman marketer who wants to better understand this, obviously I think you're against the grain of what the majority of marketing publications and associations and educational platforms for marketers to learn about how to be better at data targeting with their ads and programmatic advertising. Where would you be studying? Was there a mentor of yours who really you caught wind of this early on and kind of grasped onto it? Is there a platform? Like, where do we go to learn more and really self-educate on this?
Well, for me, it's a confluence of like background, right? So I came out of sales and marketing, the sexy side of marketing, creative on a retail product. We sold to car collectors, right? To stack cars in garages, and it's sexy, it's cool, it's powder coated, not painted, it's all that stuff. So I've got that side, and the content creation and all that. That's somewhat commoditized. Tony V would scream at the top of his lungs, it's not, but that's because he's got a proprietary advantage and audience ID. So even with this little meme, then a video, then a video, then a meme, and that gets you a better thing on the Instagram algo. Well, sorry, Gary, not all of us are friends with the folks over at Meta. We don't get those 1990s Nintendo cheat codes the way you do for algorithm, but there's no marketing fundamentals baked into that. So I came out of that space and I went to work for a company that did propensity modeling for the utility sector. The most boring thing I've ever done in my life, the most boring thing I've ever sold in my life. But the federal government says you have to reduce 2%, and utilities only run at 4 or 5% margins. If you reduce 2%, we'll reimburse. If you reduce 1.9%, you don't get reimbursed. So you lose almost 2% of revenue, and that's a big hit. If you're really successful and you reduce consumption by 10%, we're still only reducing by 2. We're only reimbursing 2%. So data modeling was a geeky, scientific, very serious thing. I sold that. I learned it to sell it for about 18 months before I, got into this chronic falling asleep at the wheel thing. That was a really boring industry. But I took the learnings from the data guys in that company and the modeling, propensity modeling they were doing. I took a learning from that and I applied it to digital marketing put through at the time, like email marketing when that worked and all of that. And you started to see a lift and communication channels that were flattening. And then so we got better at that piece and brought in some data guys. And back then it was a different game, but it was still the same process, still the same output.
Yeah.
And so I glommed onto that. We get better results for clients by isolating and identifying their high conversion audience. Right. We can identify that secondary and tertiary brand band that's in, life trajectory going to be a likely, brand sale in 10 years if it's a big company and they have that budget. But Connor, let's face it, if you're a $20 million a year company, you're not trying to create sales in 2029 right now with your budget. You're trying to create sales by the end of this quarter.
100%.
And set yourself up for first.
Way more than ever because of where the economy is. People are so much more pressed to be like, okay, anything I do marketing has to have a direct return on it, a direct ROI.
And it's got to be trackable.
Yes. Talk about a client use case for that, just so people can kind of envision a picture of, okay, here's what they're doing before, here's what we went in and applied, and here's the difference in the result of what happened applying these principles.
So I'll stay in an analogy that I've already shared, or an anecdote I've already shared, and that's the window industry, right? And we're vertical agnostic. We do everything from B2B to B2C to high volume B2C to high end B2C. We do it all. So we go to this window company, and on my very first call with the guy that owns this, he said, I just have one question. It was a referral. So it was kind of a friendly call. And he says, how do I make digital marketing not suck? Because it sucks for us. So we get into it, and I find out he's upper tier for price in the window, but he's in a great market, which is Tampa to Sarasota. A lot of money down here, but it's a very unique market. A lot of people that live down here in the affluent homes don't own them. We lease them because it's a tax write-off. Most of us not most of us, but a lot of us brought our businesses down here. I don't want to own a house and buy at the high end of the retail or the real estate market. That's stupid. So we lease. So he was going through Meta and an agency that's like, oh, we've got this great algorithm for Facebook and cross-device for programmatic, and it's great. But the audience sucked. Half his audience weren't even homeowners, and of the half that at least met the homeowner criteria, they were lacking. He couldn't put his finger on it. So we said, look, we can't tell you right now what it is, but in 90 days we can, and maybe even in 30. And if we're real lucky, in 2 weeks. So we do our thing and we get into this. And suddenly he goes from spending $30,000 a month through an agency that's diluting that budget and then putting through the rest to just programmatic and Facebook. So we cut that ad budget in half and tripled his conversions. And an $80,000 sale, the ROI, you don't even talk about it in a percentage because it's nonsensical. It's that big. And it's the same with like SaaS products, right? You could talk ROI and tell everybody you get 2,000% ROI. Let me see you do that on a $25 product you're trying to promote through TikTok, right? So you've always got to bake in the position in the market price-wise that each product is. But in terms of just conversion rates, I mean, exponentially higher with half the budget. And it's because...
go ahead. Finish.
We took the existing budget and we got rid of the half that he was just throwing away, serving ads to people that don't even own a home. And then we took the other half that had houses that were never going to buy an $80,000 window job. That halved the budget again, or halved the audience size again. And then when you're left, we started finding these conversion segments. Well, one of them that just popped was the average home cost of the window job for his company in that space is about 7%. So if you didn't have a minimum of 26, 27, 28% equity and you wanted to do a HELOC, you're stuck paying PMI. So we just found that people that want to put through a fast window job and have fast conversion and push them to use a HELOC to finance it on their own time so they didn't have to get involved in financing, you had to have that much equity or the bank was going to call you up and want a PMI deal on a private mortgage.
Is your team, let's say I'm a marketer trying to do this on my own, is your team going out to the more segmented platforms to source the data, or is there like a proprietary method that you utilize? Is it through a technology, or is it you just have to go that much level deeper to get the data? Don't rely on what Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn's going to give to you. You got to go a whole layer deeper and procure your data that way.
So we look at Facebook as a partner. We look at Instagram as a partner. They are not a partner for audience identification. They are a partners for audience serving. If we have an audience, we know the likelihood that they're going to be present on one of Meta's platforms with now Threads is likely. It's a pretty good likelihood. So we'll publish that audience into them and know we're going to get some ROI out of it. If you're building it there, that's where you're in trouble. So what we're doing, Connor, is we're sourcing data in ways that you couldn't do before. And because before you had that personally identifiable information, now you get into federal regulatory concerns. Now you get into all of these issues because you're violating consumer privacy, because I know your Connor Dube, I know your date of birth, and I know all these things that doesn't matter to my client. My client needs to know that these devices are associated to a human being that's got a $500,000 house at least, and he's got 29% equity, and his search behavior, his intent behavior, his physical, tells me he's in the market for Windows. That's who we want to gather for that audience and serve the ad to. I don't sell the data. I don't possess the data. We possess a list of device IDs and we publish them. We stay the hell out of the proprietary selling of data game. So it opens up the market. I can get data anywhere as long as I can do two things. Convert it through, we have technology that's converted into just a spreadsheet of device IDs, A, and B, legally activate those devices, mean only serve them ads where it's legal to do so. We can encapsulate 100% of any device ID list by being channel agnostic. None of my clients are like, no, we have to drive. We really like Mark Zuckerberg. We have to drive the conversion on that. They don't give a rip. Sorry about that. They don't give a rip where you drive that conversion. They want the audience they intend to want to reach to see it and take action and convert. To them, it doesn't matter if it's on News Cycling World because they're an avid 10 speeder and they're part of the display network, or if it's Meta, LinkedIn, connected TV. They don't care. They don't care. They just want the audience addressed. They want the audience marketed to and converted. And so we become channel and device agnostic.
Yeah. That's what every agency owner needs to hear right now is that piece right there. Like it does, you're so married to like, we're a Facebook ad agency, we're a LinkedIn ad agency, and you're wondering why your client and your lifetime value of your client's only 3 months to 6 months and you're blowing their budget out of the water is because of that reason. Talk a lot, because I know I'm going to hear this from guests, especially, just kind of given our platform, is my business doesn't work like that because I'm B2B. What does that mean? How does that apply in the B2B world versus, some of the consumer examples that you've given?
Well, the way in which you arrive at a B2B audience does change. There's no doubt. But if you think you're going to serve them ads like they're the kiosk with the sign of the company, that's silly. We're still human beings. We're still consumers in our personal lives. We still have consumer psychology. It changes when we're, harnessing other people's money, and it impacts the result of that spend, impacts our livelihood, our jobs. So the psychology changes a little bit. But if you think that you can't drive a conversion on a connected TV streaming services at 7:00 at night, when that man or woman you're trying to reach has had a long day, they come home, they have dinner with their family, they kick their feet up and get a glass of wine and want to kick back and watch a movie. They see a relevant ad about a SaaS product that's going to make their work life easier, they are absolutely going to take notice. So there's that disconnect. You have to arrive at it differently because there's always, additional contextual layers. So you start with vertical market, you start with company size. Every product has a difference, what they're looking for. Might be number of employees if you're in the PEO space, because the more employees, the more per instance dollar, it's all that. But you collaborate with the client to understand what does their profitability model look like in terms of their audience. What does that audience need to look like? Not just to drive a conversion, but to drive a profitable conversion. And that's the other thing that people miss so much. Nobody, even Nike, isn't capitalizing ad spend to everybody in the world. So we're making decisions on better audiences versus not as good audiences. No doubt, we all are as marketers. Why not go all the way when your CPM model with specificity is going to be the same? Why not make really, really detailed, smart decisions? And if you're not sure how to make those, let us leverage analytics to show you what decisions to make. It's just a better track.
Going high level for the business owners, taking the company public, what was the ultimate decision to do that, and like the big vision of taking Specificity public?
Well, before I made the decision to go public, I had always maintained through a 10-year history of owning digital, 15-year history of owning digital agencies, a proprietary advantage of some kind. It changed over the years. Technology evolves. I got into technology real early, about 8 years ago, that we repurposed for marketing. And then that got, kind of socialized across big tech, got wind of it and did what they do with it. But for me, the play we're making now is not just better skills and better tools. It's a paradigm shift. And frankly, we think it's an industry disruptor. It is literally a shift in how we look at big tech. We don't need to be reliant on big tech, but big tech sure as hell is relying on our ad spend. And the sooner as marketers, we all come together with that understanding, their model is solely predicated on a CPM. I don't care if it's a PPC campaign, if it's Google, it's a per click, but it's a per instance model. They are never, ever going to go, you know what? We can cut 30% of our profit out of your spend and make you more money. That's your job as a marketer. That's your job as a business owner to leverage these platforms in smarter ways. Trust me, Meta takes our Facebook spend just as quickly as they take people's spend wasting it. Money's money. And when the iOS update hit and they took that ad revenue hit and engagement dropped, they're hungry for the spend.
100%. And you've also, people may not know this, you've also partnered up with Kevin, who we both know, the OG, the original Shark of Shark Tank. How did you end up kind of getting into that decision? Again, you could have taken this, you have all the skill set, could have done this on their own. Why did you end up partnering up with a group like Kevin's, and just maybe some insight and wisdom on your thought process behind that for other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, actually, it was kind of a fluke. They actually reached out to us about a particular marketing campaign, and so we got on a Zoom, and I pitched them, the same way you pitch anybody. And a couple days went by after that, and then my office got contacted by a different, wing of their office with that model, and they said, hey, Kev would like to get involved with Specificity. He likes what you're talking about. Yeah, and anybody that knows Kevin Harrington, the guy's a marketing guru, that spans generations. I mean, he knows the pitfalls and the advantage at the time in something like infomercials because he created them and he did all that, and so he knows how that plays now. More to the point, how it doesn't play now. So you talk about a guy that's looking for that next marketing iteration from that perspective of the marketer, not the tech, not the geek, not the data guy, but the marketer. It was a great marriage. So we made a deal. He took a 4% equity share position in our company, and we're partnered with him to this day.
But wait, there's more.
There's always more.
Classic. Dude, that's amazing. And you're seriously a true inspiration. Before we wrap up here, give a bit, just your perspective on something that you've really held as a longstanding belief about marketing, data-driven marketing in the world that you live in, that in the last maybe 1 to 2, 3 months, you've actually completely changed your mind about. So something you've held as a longstanding belief, but you've changed your mind on recently.
That would be AI. As we look at the ad tech and big tech and big social landscape, applying AI optimization when the baseline data is so errant doesn't make a lot of sense to us. I stayed on the sidelines of AI. But then, frankly, I came across a company that was doing some unique things that they can custom build AI modeling and set loose AI in confined spaces. AI, in our industry, Connor, here's a fundamental for you. In our industry, vernacular adoption always precedes actual adoption. People talk about using, and it's great stuff that's not real yet. And our industry is so guilty of it because of monkey see, monkey do. People are talking about, oh man, optimization with AI. Yeah, but it's through your click-through funnels on Meta.
How many metaverse agencies did we see pop up in the last couple of years?
I know, man.
We're a metaverse marketing agency. We're an NFT marketing agency.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite guys is Gary V, right? Vandercheck Media, and he's one of my favorite guys because he's a straight shooter like I am, and he just he holds no punches. But the guy, it's a little species when they get big, right? Because pretty soon he's got an NFT, and man, it's everywhere. Everybody's buying into it, and then all of a sudden you hear Gary V made X amount of money on an NFT, and then you never hear about that NFT again, ever. So but again, it's that vernacular, trendy shit that people just glom onto. We found a company that could build AI in a way that makes sense. AI comes out with creative, great. Well, now there's 25,000 copyright lawsuits ongoing, and big companies that we're talking to. We just signed a big client that has a moratorium on AI. They don't want to they don't want to steal creative people's stuff. Another company, they don't want to steal their stuff, and so they've got a moratorium on it. We're creating tools with AI right now. We've already launched Amplified Email, which is an email tool. We've launched Amplified Social, which is a social media tool. But we build the sandbox of assets from our client. We build outside source silos in that are called attribution libraries. So if AI needs to use something for support, it has to attribute it from the source. So we button that up all legal. So you can now do it and let it create content and copy because it's going to do it with what you feed it. Documents you pull in from the outside world that are kind of the foundational knowledge. As long as you attribute that, I mean, people like it when you attribute their work, and consumers are agnostic to it. A fact's a fact. Okay, great, they attribute something, it doesn't matter. So then we've got that tool, and now our big play, and we've been working on this for about 3 weeks. I just acquired this company about a month ago, is Amplified Ad Tech, and we are going to set AI loose on an incredibly granular campaign data tool where it's going to help us arrive at high conversion audiences with really smart data. So instead of AI, we've got what we're calling enriched AI, and that's exactly what it is. We're enriching it in really smart data and then asking it to arrive at some smart conclusions.
You're an inspiration, man. Seriously. It's exciting just watching from afar, seeing what you're doing. And for anyone who's interested too, you have to go check out specificityinc.com. And for those who are maybe like, I don't want to invest the time, money, energy to try to build this out on my own. I'd rather go to an expert like you and your team to do it. For Specificity, what is kind of that entry point? Like, what should people expect when they reach out to you and get from you in the beginning stages of your relationship?
We're scalable both directions. We do some Fortune 500 campaigns, but we're also scalable down. Our minimum spend is $4,000. And for that, it's not like a limping into the market. It's a model. It's a model that'll make you money. And at the very least, you're going to get positive ROI for sure. At that level, you're going to make money. You're going to make more money than what you're doing right now. That we know. But on top of that, the learning that comes from those campaigns that start with that kind of data, it's invaluable to inform the business on things like operations and creatives to everything when you can get more predictive in that. So 4,000 is our minimum spend level, but most of our clients obviously float pretty high above that.
Awesome. So people just check out specificityinc.com, and then any other way you want to shout out, Jason, people will reach you, contact you. If you want the no holds bar, me screaming at top of my lungs that the emperor has no clothes, the emperor being big tech and ad tech, go to the Angry CEO on TikTok. It's a trip. It is R-rated. Trust me, I promise it's not nudity. I'm 47. I don't take my shirt off. He blurs it out at least, and his OnlyFans link is hidden. I did dig deep enough to find it, but just know it's there.
I'm not like our friend BTA who can take his shirt off and do a live with a shirt on because the market doesn't get. I'm 47, man, but nobody wants to see that.
The guy knows his audience. The guy knows his audience.
Love Brandon Adams, man. Yeah, for sure. He does.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm truly grateful to know you and just to have you here to share your insights. Obviously, there's a lot more to expand to, so we'll have to do other podcasts just kind of, down the road and everything and do some updates. But check out Specificity. You're also looking to get on more podcasts too. So if you have a podcast, reach out to Jason's team and do that. And with that, my friends, much love to you. Make it great. And we will see you over in the next episode.
Yeah, Connor, thanks so much for having me on, man.